Welcome, everybody. Good to see you as always. It's a special day. It marks our final day in our 2-month series, and I am so grateful to so many of you for joining me every day and posting your comments and your weather reports. It's really been something. Before we get into the substance of today, I want to just remind you that Hay House has generously offered to put Daily Dose of Sanity, book of daily readings, on e-books for $1.99, Amazon, iTunes, and Barnes & Noble, so you might want to pick that up. And also we'll be continuing on Wednesdays, going into June with our weekly wave of sanity. And you can also join my Leading Edge of Prosperity program starting on Tuesday. Go to my website. I have my radio show on Tuesdays. Let's see, all kinds of stuff going on. Sign up for my daily quotes. I send out an inspirational quote every day. So go to my website. All the stuff is on there. And if you want to continue with me, I would be delighted to have you share. We started a tradition of viral acts of kindness, and we got one more the other day from Jackie in the UK, who said that there's a lot of furloughed or grounded aviation crew in the UK. And so they've decided to support National Health Service doctors, nurses, and staff by creating, quote, first-class lounges within over 40 hospitals in the UK. And so the crew from the airlines volunteer to serve refreshments to the hospital staff from early morning to evening, as well as a sympathetic air, as they would with passengers during flights. So they also have goodies they're passing out. So isn't it wonderful how people take their talents and kindness and services and are passing them around during this period? And it goes to show you that you're never really out of a job. You may not be working for the airline, but you can serve people in hospitals. So God bless those people. Thank you, Jackie, for offering that. As for me, I started this just as an experiment, and in late March, when it was announced in Hawaii that there'd be a lockdown until the end of April, I said, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? And I thought I might be bored. Well, I haven't been bored, not for 2 months. I've been spent most of my time on Zoom and YouTube, and it's been extremely, extremely rewarding. And so I'm just remembering, years ago, I was invited to speak in Hawaii for the first time. I was living in New Jersey. And it was a weird conference because I had to pay my own way and my own registration. I didn't want to do it, but I did it. And it was a wonderful conference. And at the end of it, some of the presenters were sharing. And one fellow got on stage and he said, when I got the invitation to this conference, I didn't want to have to pay for myself as a presenter, and I didn't want to have to fly all this way. He says, but I thought, if I could just help one person at that conference, it would be worthwhile. And then this man broke into tears, and he said, I realized that one person was me. So I can say the same thing. A lot of you have thanked me for helping and doing my broadcast, but I think they've helped me more than anybody else because it's put me in a great frame of mind. I've had to think deeply about what I want to share. I've had to pray and go in, and I've received so many compliments. So I'm glad you received something, but I think maybe I received more. So as we start to segue out of this COVID period, I'm remembering a lesson from A Course in Miracles, which I want to read to you. And it's in the text, actually. And it's called Choose Once Again. And I think it summed up the essence of the spiritual use of this period. Now, I'm going to post a link at the end of this video after we sign off. And I haven't really asked you for anything as part of this. I don't want you to pay or anything like that. But I'm going to ask you for one favor. I want you to watch this video. It's a YouTube called The Great Realization, spelled with an S, with British spelling. And it's about a 4-minute YouTube by a fellow who made the most touching analysis and synthesis of what this COVID situation has been about for the world. It's just so beautifully, artfully done. So if you want to thank me in any way, just watch that 4-minute YouTube. I get nothing out of it except knowing that you're happy. So just watch this YouTube I post at the end of this video. So this is from Course in Miracles. It says, trials are but lessons that you failed to learn, presented once again. So where you once made a faulty choice, you now can make a better one, and thus escape all pain that what you chose before has brought to you. So this goes for personal trials, and it goes for planetary trials. And we might say that this is the greatest planetary trial in history, in the sense that practically every person on the planet has been affected by this coronavirus and the economic turndown. So the question is, how can we use this trial to make our lives better? Going on to the Course, it says, in every difficulty, all distress, and each perplexity, Christ calls to you and gently says, my brother or my sister, choose again. He would not leave one source of pain unhealed, nor any image left to veil the truth. He would remove all misery from you, whom God created altar unto joy. He would not leave you comfortless, alone in dreams of hell, but would release your mind from everything that hides his face from you. His holiness is yours because he is the only power that is real in you. His strength is yours because he is the self that God created as his only son or child. So why am I reading this? So, as we've said several times, the world as it was before COVID showed off was not generally a healthy place. It was generally ruled by fear and separation and aloneness and conflict and competition and greed and nationalism and religionism. And something comes along that gets our attention. It says, okay, here's your opportunity to choose once again. And I think a lot of you, as I've spoken to some of you in coaching outside this program, a lot of people have told me, I'm so sorry that people are suffering and people are dying. That's a tragedy. But I have to say that I've had a chance to really rethink my life and improve how I'm living. I love being home with my kids. My kids are home from college, they say, and my pets and my partner, and I've had a chance to write or sew or meditate or pray or do yoga. And a lot of people said, I've really made these couple of months work on my behalf. And I feel empowered now. I feel encouraged now. And when I go back to my, won't be really regular life, but, pick up with my life. So I want to spend more time with my kids. I like working from home. I didn't like going to the office anyway. My kids didn't like going to public school. They'd rather be home, and they're doing their lessons online. So this has been a huge, 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 huge opportunity for us to reinvent ourselves. And unfortunately, sometimes it takes a 2x4 to get our attention, but it has. And so if we make our lives better as a result of this couple of months, it will have served well. We can raise the vibration of the planet. Now, what you may have noticed is that this is not going away overnight. That, there's still lots of cases popping up and there are spikes, and sadly people are still getting sick and dying. It's not going to leave immediately. So what I'm suggesting here is that there's not one moment of awakening, not one period of 2 months when you get a chance to revisit your life. This is going to be an ongoing process. And in a way, that's a good thing. Because, if some hardship comes and it leaves, we tend to revert to our previous rut. After 9/11 happened, they said that church attendance spiked way, way, way up for 3 or 4 weeks. And then when people weren't afraid anymore, they quit going to church. I'm not suggesting you be afraid, But I'm thinking that when there's an ongoing something that is in your face, you have to keep going back to your source with a capital S. So we're going to need to keep praying. We're going to need to keep revisiting our values. We're going to need to keep communicating. We're going to need to keep staying connected with our spiritual community, even if it's by Zoom. And one of the great blessings is that we've been so connected during these couple of months, so connected. I read comments from Warsaw and Sweden and France and South Africa and Australia and India. So there's no distance in God. The fact that our bodies are scattered all over the planet does not mean that our minds are scattered, because we're one mind. And I felt so joined with all of you for these 2 months. And I think you have too. A lot of you people said this has been like a spiritual lifeline for you. And our bodies, I will probably never meet in person many of you who've written into the comments. It's just the way it is. But I know you, and you know me, and our souls have touched. We've met. We've had a moment together that has been meaningful to all of us. So I want to leave you with the thought that, we're all, this funny religious word that's coming to me, anointed. If that's too much for you, you can change it to appointed. But we've all been appointed to be light workers. And if you read my books, you're going to these broadcasts, my other seminars, you must be on a spiritual path. And the spiritual path gives us leverage that the physical path does not. People who are immersed only in materialism are suffering. But if we recognize that there is a higher power, and that a higher power absolutely loves us unconditionally, that higher power wants us to thrive and be healthy and take care of each other and have compassion and recognize our joined humanity, and to take the gifts that God gives to us as individuals and splay them out. Now this daily dose is one way of me sharing my gifts. You have yours too. And if your gifts get bottled up inside you, they back up on you, and it's no fun. You get tired or irritable, sick or bored or depressed. You cannot be depressed and expressed at the same time. If you're depressed, there's something pressing. Depression is actually a dynamic thing. It may seem like a blah or bleak thing, but there's energy that's pressing in on you. And the cure for depression, and I've seen it in myself and others, the cure for depression is expression. Take that energy that you are using to work against yourself and send it out to the universe. Volunteer somewhere. Write your book, play your song, do your dance, communicate to the people that you've withheld your communication from. Pray to God, talk to God, do your yoga, do something that moves your chi, moves your life force. Express, and I promise you, by universal law, you cannot be expressed and depressed simultaneously. Now, what Spirit is wanting us all to do now is to express our spiritual gifts and take good care of each other. So please, never underestimate your role as a light worker. You are all a light worker. You may not have thought of yourself as such, but you are. If you've been listening to these broadcasts, you are a light worker appointed by God. You don't have to be world savior or go around proselytizing people, but you have to hold the light. You have to be the mule. I don't know if I mentioned in this particular broadcast, but if a farmer has a corral of skittish horses, he'll take a mule, a rancher. He'll take a mule, and the mule is very grounded and relaxed and centered. And the energy of that calm mule will bring the skittish horses back to a quiet place. So it doesn't sound very spiritual, but be the mule. Be the grounding force. Be the healing force. Be the loving force. And don't say, who, me? Don't say, I'm not ready. Guess what? You just got kicked in the butt. You're ready. Don't say, I'm too young. I'm too old. I don't have enough education. I'm not spiritual enough. If you knew my secret sins, you wouldn't want me, God. No. That's all ego, all ego. We're told in the Bible that Moses had a speech impediment. And when God said to him, I want you to go get the Hebrew nation out of Egypt, he said, like, who, me? And God said, yeah, you. God said, I will speak through you. Don't worry about your speech. I will be the speaker. And so finally, it kind of reminds me of a modern day version of this. There was a great movie years ago called Oh God. A lot of you have probably seen it, with George Burns and John Denver. And John Denver plays kind of a naive or kind of innocent supermarket manager. And God shows up to John Denver in the form of George Burns. Great casting, huh? And he begins to guide him. And he says, his name is Jerry in the movie, he says, Jerry, I have a message for you to give the world. What's the message? The message is it can work. Like if you really put your heads and hearts together, it can work. So God takes Jerry to this public gathering and he kind of kicks him out of a car and says, go speak. And Jerry says, I don't know if I could do this. And God turns to Jerry and puts his hand on his shoulder. He says, Jerry, he says, you have the strength that comes from knowing. You have the strength that comes from knowing. And I want to pass the same message along to you. You have the strength that comes from knowing. Yes, you have doubts. Yes, you have fears. Yes, you have upsets. Yes, you have ups and downs. Yes, you do silly things. Yes, you make mistakes. Yeah. But behind all that, something inside you knows there's a greater reality, a greater truth, a greater possibility than the one the world has been living. So now it's time to go out and live that truth. Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see. Victor Hugo said, nothing is so powerful as an idea whose time has come. And you are that idea. So I am so grateful you've met for these 2 months. Let's end with a prayer, shall we? And I'm not going away. I'll see you on Wednesday. Every Wednesday at the same time, Pacific time, 12 o'clock, noon Pacific. We're meeting for a weekly dose of sanity. I hope you all tune in then. So let's just close with a prayer. Thank you, Great Spirit, for these wonderful times. This has been a hard time in many ways for many people, but for many of us, it's been a blessed time. So let us thank God for the opportunity to meet together with His technology from all around the planet. Let's thank God for all the ideas we've traded, the ideas I've traded with you and the ones you've traded with me. Let's thank God for everyone who's posted a loving comment with their weather report from where they live. And most of all, we thank God that we have a source that supersedes the appearances of the world. And even though times have been hard for many people, we have had a source of healing and well-being and connection and loving that is absolutely real, absolutely pure, absolutely true, and absolutely sustains us. So I pray for the well-being of everyone who's listened to any one of these broadcasts or will, live or to the archive. And let us send out prayers to the planet. We don't want to see any more people suffer. We want to see people thriving and happy and healthy. We want to see people working and having right livelihoods. And most of all, we want to see the consciousness of this planet upgraded so that the world that we step back into is far superior and more healed and more connected to spirit than the one we left behind. That world is gone now. And there's a new beginning, a new direction that we're stepping into by our intention and by the grace of God. Thank you so much for joining me. I love you with all my heart. And I'll see you again soon. As we say in Hawaii, aloha.